Welcome back, everyone. At the beginning of the program, you might remember I mentioned something about the Doomsday Vault that's being built by the Norwegian government. They're putting copies of or examples, samples of all the different kinds of seeds from all the plants all over the planet, putting them into this vault in a remote area, an island off the coast of Norway, deep into this mountain, sort of a living Fort Knox of plant life on the planet Earth. And I speculated then, I wonder if somebody knows something we don't. My guest, Brent Miller of the Horizon Project, started to hint about this before our break. Brent, are you there?
Under normal circumstances, this seems like it would be a very logical thing to do, to protect the 3 million seeds on Earth. But the speed and the necessity for which they felt they had to build this vault, and particularly the location. They chose it above the Arctic Circle, and they also dug into solid rock about 600 feet above ocean level, above sea level. Now, if there's a pole shift, the waters won't rise that high, being that far north. The poles would actually have to shift quite a bit, perhaps even 90 degrees before it even would approach that. The odds of that particular mountain with the worst-case scenario pole shift actually going under the waters are practically nil. But the speed at which they built it, they started this project in 2007, they completed it in 2008, and now they are asking for all the world's countries in order to populate the vault with seeds immediately. And, you know, they're trying to protect it from what? The only thing on that rock are polar bears, from our understanding. And it would be a difficult, if not impossible, place to check in and out seeds as you need them. So it is a truly doomsday type of vault, but why build it so quickly? So they must know something.
And would you think that our government would be part of that we're a partner in it, or are we allowing the Norwegians to corner the market on seeds?
They actually, well, the way they did it, it's interesting. They got the UN's permission to do this. The UN is part of this, actually. And then they announced to the world that all the countries of the world can put their seeds in the vault, and they are encouraging it, and that the country is able to withdraw the seeds out of the vault at any time they desire. However, if we have this event, the countries won't be able to readily have access to this vault, of course. But it does make you think that because of the speed at which they did this and the place at which they built this vault, it makes you think there's something more to it, that they do know something. A lot of the governments around the world are starting to do things that don't really make political or economic sense, but it would in light of what we do believe is coming up in the future.
Well, you mentioned this example, and you mentioned the failure to fix our economic problems. Are there other examples of things that governments are doing that don't make sense that would fit into this scenario?
Well, there's a number of subtle things that are being hinted to. For instance, we've all heard of the one world order. If we have a worldwide collapse, we already have to have in place pretty much a single unified structure to have a single government, a single political system, single currency. An economic collapse would pretty much guarantee a single currency because all the countries would have to consolidate somehow. Let me see. Brown, 3 or 4 months ago, indicated that all the countries in the world must band together in order to solve this financial crisis.
Who is this? Who said this? Brown?
This is Prime Minister Brown, England.
Gordon Brown.
He said that if all the countries in the world band together, we might be able to resolve this. Otherwise, there's no hope. It's going to be a global collapse. And the very concept of a global economic collapse was unheard of a year ago. They would have thought you were crazy if you even said global economy. Now we're saying global economic collapse, and we see it happening everywhere.
Let's talk about some other possible precursor events. I mean, are there physical things that are happening on our planet that you would say is an indication that this is coming? Something that precedes the pole shift that you're talking about. And let me ask, I'll ask it a different way. The Yellowstone quakes, they've had more than 900 of these mini quakes. Now, maybe this is unrelated. You tell me. Is it somehow related?
Actually, I do believe it's related. One of the precursor events, the precursor events will be subtle, compared to the massive pole shift, which will basically wipe out 4 billion people within 6 months, and then a Mad Max scenario. But so these, quote, subtle events, I'm calling them subtle with respect to the major event, but the events themselves have tremendous significance when you look at all of them being combined. As the solar system, including the Earth, moves closer to the galactic plane, it is going to be feel the effects of the gravitational pull of this plane more and more. So it will affect not only the Earth, it will affect the rest of the planets in the solar system, it will affect the Sun. It's not just Earth-centric, it affects the whole solar system. So we see that the planet's temperatures of the inner 5 planets have all risen a slight bit, including the Earth. We see that the Sun is starting to go on a rampage. We see that the gravitational effects, this external gravitational effects on the Earth, we would project and predict that even though the earthquake and tectonic activity would not continue to occur in the same stable places where they were around the planet, they would tend to move. In other words, earthquakes would occur in diverse places. In other words, places where they normally don't occur for thousands of years, we're starting to see more of those. In fact, people build populations on non-earthquake areas, except in California. But now that these earthquakes are happening in places all over the world where earthquakes normally would never be expected to occur, many, many people are dying. Last year alone, over 88,000 people died due to earthquakes. In fact, the number of earthquakes that have occurred in populated areas has increased 6 to 10 times in the last 10 years. So the frequency and intensity of earthquakes that are killing people is going through the roof, because those earthquakes are occurring in populated areas where they didn't occur before. To see a graph of this, so you can see in real time what this graph looks like over the last 100 years, you can see that at the news section at thehorizonproject.com. But getting to Yellowstone, Yellowstone is a situation that all the scientists and geologists are praying will not occur. As you said, there is a tremendous amount of seismic activity underneath Yellowstone right now. And Yellowstone is unique because the magma underneath Yellowstone releases a gas. And the magma is coming toward the surface, and the gas is becoming released with greater intensity each day. The problem is the magma coming up compresses the gas and creates a very explosive, high-pressure situation under Yellowstone, similar to what we saw at Mount St. Helens years ago. However, this is much more vast, and we're dealing with molten lava. So they're just praying that this settles down and goes away, which it could. But these type of things we would expect to see as one of the things, because the Earth is being affected externally.
Brent Miller, I'm going to have to take another short break. When we come back, we'll talk about climate change, extreme weather, things of that sort, whether that is also related to this. Stay with us on Coast to Coast AM. Welcome back. We're talking with Brent Miller of the Horizon Project about possible changes to our planet coming, some of them very severe, according to some predictions. We were just talking a moment ago about Yellowstone, Brent, and maybe it's related, maybe it's not. You would agree that the tectonic things, the volcanic things, the earthquake things going on around Yellowstone could be completely unrelated to this. I mean, there are a variety of reasons why that's happening there. It's been around for a long time in that area, right?
That's correct. It could be completely unrelated. But when you take a look at not just Yellowstone, but when you take a look at hundreds of other anomalies around the world that are happening, and in the solar system, you'd see that there's something definitely going on.
What about weather? Extreme weather.
One.
I mean,
extreme weather. Let's back up just a couple years talking about weather. In 2006, the National Climate Data Center released their 2006 report showing the significant and extreme weather anomalies around the world, and they indicated that never before has there been so many droughts, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, and in places where they normally do not occur ever in the history of their recording. Now, that's in 2006. Guess what? The very next year, they then report that 2007 was the weirdest weather year on record. as these disasters continue to increase. So in other words, 2007 topped even 2006 report. Let me give you a few examples of the oddities in the frequency in the last few years.